Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Maybe you know what the national conscience is. If you don't, that's not good. Why? Because that kind of means you're not part of, with your soul, part of your nation. You don't feel part of your nation. And the national conscience is built, it's shaped by historical events, good and bad, which you look, let's say, at your country and say, well, we got together when we were attacked by Japan, right? On the 7th of December, 1941 or so, right? So that was for us a moment when we all, a day that would live in infamy, remember? Okay, so that's what shaped something in your national conscience about something from that side. You felt that you were attacked by an and you felt there was a reality. You were attacked, and your nation, your tribe, your family was attacked from outside tribe, nation, interest. Therefore, you got together. You knew that you belonged to this, and that was a moment, a negative moment, that got you all together. The United States doesn't have many of this, but in Eastern Europe and in Europe in general, but I'm using Eastern Europe because it's an article related to Poland and Ukraine. The national conscience is a very, very strong feeling. And as I said, if you don't have it, that means that the globalists and their paid little weasels did a good job on you to lose it. If you consider yourself an internationalist, that means you don't have a national conscience anymore. That means you have no problem if you consider yourself, I don't know, French, or you consider yourself German, or if you consider yourself Jewish, or you consider yourself German. Now, you know that's a big stretch, but you understand that's what I'm using. Or you consider yourself, the same thing for an Israeli to consider himself a Jew or an Israeli is the same thing as he considering himself a Palestinian or an Iranian. You know how crazy that is. So why? Because Israel has a national conscience and it keeps it alive. Now, what happened? We have here Poland and Ukraine, where we are told since the war here that they are actually friends, good friends. And Poland was, and will be forever there for Ukraine. And I said, that's a bullshit. Why? For that reason. And not only that, there's so much historical damage between the two countries and the countries in the Eastern Europe with their neighbors, that in your national conscience you always have your guard up and you remember certain dates when your ancestors were massacred by his ancestors or their ancestors, and vice versa, because this was on and off. I do it to you, you do it to me. When I'm stronger, when you're stronger, you. Now, that's life, and it's always going to be like this because we are human. If we're not going to do that, that means we're going to miss something somewhere. That means we're going to be robots, and they're working on that. So what happened now? Remember, Polish people in general, from my experience, do not really like certain kind of nations. Romanian people in general don't like certain kind of nations. In general, the national conscience dictates, for instance, that when it's a conversation, let's say for a Romanian, about Transylvania and Hungary, you will realize the reality, okay? And vice versa. When the Hungarians hear about Romanians and Transylvania, they will feel the same passion, okay? That means get your weapons and let's go. That's with Poland and other countries, Ukraine, Russia, because you have historical. So what happened now? This is just to show those guys who think that I'm just an idiot talking and not knowing what I'm talking about, and we all love one another and all that kindergarten level talk, and we can't be children like Jesus wants us to be. I personally don't want. I don't know about you. So, Polish Prime Minister expressed indignation over celebration of Bandera's birthday. Okay, not Antonio Bandera. Okay, not the actor. Bandera was a nationalist, a Ukrainian nationalist who worked and fought for his nation, and he employed certain kind of, he made certain kind of decisions, and in the process some people died. In this case, Polish massacres occurred. The Polish say, the Ukrainians say differently. So, Polish Prime Minister expressed indignation over celebration of Bandera's birthday. Right, let's see what's going on here. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki expressed his outrage on Monday to Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal. Well, he's Jewish, what do you want? Over the celebration of the birthday of the controversial Ukrainian nationalist Stepan Bandera. Now, on January 1st, the Ukrainian authorities held a series of events on the occasion of Bandera's birthday. He was considered a Nazi, I think, too. So you know what I mean? And I'm quoting, "I don't have enough words of indignation about all sorts of actions that praise or salute those responsible for the crimes in Volhynia, from 100,000 to 200,000 Poles died at the hands of Ukrainians then." It's a massacre. Let's call it a Holodomor too. Or maybe a Holocaust. I'll call it a genocide. How should we call it? 200,000 people is not two people, right? It was genocide. Thank you, Mr. Mateusz. We will never forget about it. Now, if that was a genocide, don't expect that the perpetrator should not be celebrated. Duh. Today, a couple of hours ago, I talked about this with the Prime Minister of Ukraine and expressed to him my absolute negative attitude towards everyone who does not understand this and perpetrates the memory of Bandera, end quote, he said, answering citizens' questions on social media. Well, how about that brotherhood and love? The issue of massacres of Poles in Volhynia and Eastern Galicia in 1943 and 1945 is one of the most difficult issues in relations between Poland and Ukraine. The massacres were carried out by the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, UPA, the military arm of the Bandera's faction of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, both organizations banned in Russia. Now remember, this comes from Sputnik, so put your glasses accordingly, the filters. Ukrainian officials consider these events to be the consequences of the war between the Polish Home Army and the UPA, in which the civilian population of the region also took part. The Ukrainian side estimates its losses at 10,000 to 2,000 people. The Ukrainian parliament also adopted a statement condemning the decision of the Polish parliament to recognize the Volhynia massacre as genocide. Ukrainian lawmakers believe that this decision, and I'm quoting, endangered the political and diplomatic developments of the two countries. You bet. You bet. Now, imagine this. Imagine I'm going to use two nations. I'm going to extrapolate. It's just an example, okay? Let's say you have a, how should I call him, a Jew, or I should call him an Israeli, and a German. You know what I mean? And let's say they want to be friends, okay? Germany and Israel, good friends. And which goes like this: you owe me, you pay me, basically. And the other guys are, yeah. Now imagine that, let's say, Germany would start celebrating Adolf. What do you think the Jews, Israelis, should do about it? I think they should pretty much do what the Polish do right now, because for them, that guy, Bandera, Stepan Bandera, is responsible for this genocide. 100,000 to 200,000 people died. Now you say, okay, well, how about us? 10,000, between 10,000 and 20,000. So when you hear these guys meeting together, taking pictures, and all say, friends, brothers, and so on, when the Russians are telling you that Poland's aim in this little Ukrainian thing is the western part of Ukrainian territory, you bet your ass it is. And if you think that the Poles are, no, we don't need that. We have a lot of Poles living over there. Those were historically our territory, so we should get them back. What do you think? What do you think? Friendship? And you know how the Poles are going to get that? They're not going to get it with an armed conflict. They will take those in the name of good, of safety and protection. This is what they're going to do. When the Russians will advance and will win militarily, then, and these guys, the Ukrainian leadership, where the weasels in charge, will move towards Lviv and so on. This is what probably Poland will do. We'll say, you know what, we're going to just go with the armies, get the territory, we temporarily incorporate it in our Polish territory, and it's going to be Poland from now on. Why? Because if it's going to be Poland, it's going to be recognized immediately by some country, so we give it some legitimacy. The Russians cannot take it. Okay? It's temporarily. All right? I'm 98% certain that, not certain, but I predict this is going to be a way when the Russians will break that blockade over there with the troops I'm talking. And everything will be seen as a good thing. They protect the people over there, so the Russians don't come and get them. And this is going to be just a temporary thing. Just a temporary. Swear God. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.